So now that we have our database set up and connected to our project, we want to create our first page. So this will just be an index page that lists out all of the items in our database. But first we should actually put something into our database. So I'm just going to do a quick insert statement here. So insert into products, and we'll only pass in the name and the price since the ID will just auto increment. So we've just added a product here called ball, and the price we set to $25.99. So if we execute this, it should added one item to our database, and we can see that here. So now let's work on adding the index page for our database in our project. So first we're going to create the view here in, well, we're not going to put this in the home folder, we're going to create a new folder. And this folder we'll just call it products. And the same way we had a home controller for the home folder, we now want to create a products controller for the product folder. And actually let's just name this product instead of products. So now we want to go to controllers and then add a new controller. And we'll just set this to empty here, and we'll call this the product controller. So in our product controller we have one function, and this is just returning the view. So when I first showed you how controllers work, I told you that if there's no view passed in here, it returns a view with the same name as the function name. So in our products folder, let's create a view called index, which this will return. And here we don't need any of this, so we'll just delete that. And right now let's just put a h1 tag and just make sure that this is working. So one more thing we need to do is, we have the function here, but we're not actually calling this function anywhere. So in the shared folder on the layouts file, we want to add one more link to the nav bar. So we'll copy one of these and we'll just paste it in here. And for the controller setting here, ASP-controller, we don't want to be using the home controller. Now we want to be using our product controller. And these tags here, if you're wondering, the area we won't really work with this in this course, but the controller is basically the controller file that we'll be using. We don't have to include the word controller when we write it here. And then the action is the name of the function we're going to be using. So we're calling the index function here. And here we'll just change the text. So now if we run this, we should have another link on our nav bar called products. And if we click on the products link, it should take us to the page we just created. So that's working properly. Now we want to actually use the database and list out all the items in our product view. So to do that, we actually need to get an instance of the service we injected into the program CS file. So this is the DB context that we injected into our program. And in the controller file, to get an instance of this, we first want to create a private read-only variable, and this will be of type db context, which is what we injected. And I'll just call this underscore db. Now this won't actually have the service which we injected here. This is just a blank variable. Basically it's going to be null right here. And to actually grab that instance that we injected, we want to do a constructor. So you can do that by typing CTOR and pressing tab. And in here we want to take a parameter. And the parameter we want to take in the constructor is the same service we injected using the program.cs file. So it's of type application db context. And we'll just call this db. And right here I set this to the wrong type. So that's supposed to be application db context. And then we'll set this underscore db, which is a global variable that we'll be able to use throughout this controller file. We'll set this equal to the injected one we have here. So I hope you guys understand that. I know I didn't explain it that well. But next what we want to do is we actually want to use this db now, which remember is our application db context, which has the table in it. So we just want to get all the items in the table. So in our index function, we want to create a variable and we'll call it products. So here we're just getting the db.products. And the way we access that is we use our db context here, and then we say dot and the name of our table. And there's one more thing we have to add here, which is toList. So instead of using var here, we could just say list of products. So this would also work. And now into our view, we actually want to pass this products parameter here. So now we're returning a view and we're passing in the products. And in our view, we can work with this by at the top we do at model. So this is when we type at model here, we're expecting to work with a certain model in this file. And you can either get that model from the return here, or if we weren't returning anything, this would work with the blank model file here. So if we type product here and we didn't return anything here, then this would be a product model with all the values just set to null basically. But since we are passing a products list here, then this product is actually going to be the list. But we do need to set this to list as well. So we're working with the list of products. And now we just want to create a table. And in the table, we want to set the class to table. So this class of table is just the bootstrap class that we're going to be using here. And then it gave us some basic table rows and some table data. So for the table rows, we actually don't want table data in here. We want table headers. And the first header we're going to be using is the ID. So we'll just call that ID. And then we want another table header. This is going to be the name. And then one more for the price. So now we want to add another row. But this time we're going to loop over the list and add one row for each item in the list. So we're going to do @for, or we could just do it like this, and we'll say for each, we'll call it product, or we can use actual type here. We'll name the variable obj in model. So here we're saying for each obj in model, so each of these will be one item in this model, so one product. We're going to create a new table row, and inside of it this time we want to put table data. So for the table data we want to use obj, which is the current product that we're working on, .id. So we do need to use this @ symbol here when we're working with variables and stuff. But yeah, now we'll just fill in the name and the price. So now this should be good. We're passing in a list of products here, and then we're getting that list here in the model parameter. And here we want to use a capital M when we're saying model here. So we're just looping over that list of products, and then for each product we want to create a table data out of the ID, the name, and the price. So let's run this and see if it works. And you can see that now we're getting the data from our database, which is the same as we have here. So in the next video, we're going to create a create button here that will take us to a create page where we can create entries in the database using the form.